Okay, got another condensed look at three Ultraman Rube episodes. This time, episodes 5, 6, and 7, subbed by Color Timer, because I've checked out more of Color Timer subs, and yeah, first few issues they had with the ones they put on the Superaya YouTube page before they canceled that. That seems to have worked out a bit better, and they've ironed out most of their details aside from forgetting that Katsuni is a nickname, and they've basically been cutting off the ni, which is, sibling, brother, that kind of thing. Nicknames aren't quite applicable to the sub reduction, but that's neither here nor there. Um, Episodes 5, 6, and 7 are a pretty strong set of episodes, with 6 and 7 being a two-part story. Episode 5, however, I feel was pretty good for doing more with. I'm pulling up the wiki so I can actually remember the names. I am still terrible with names. I am sorry. Yeah, it got us a bit. Episode 5 got us a bit more in the head of Isami, as he helped a um classmate of his named Yuha Ninomiya, who was working on building her own set of Icarus wings to fly away, and using his own genius to help her actually iron out the details to that. And how he really seems to be calmer when he's not in his zone of passion and more able to think on things when he's given the time to. With him basically making sure that her wings worked and that they were going to safely going to operate, and she could fly them out in the mountains around the city without any problems. Ironically, leading them to find the wind element Ultra Crystal and unlock the Ultraman Rosso and Blue wind form between this episode and the next one. It was actually pretty interesting of a character piece with Yuha, and how she was making these wings to basically escape her own fate, because her family are traditionalists and were getting her into an arranged marriage, which would mean she would drop out of college despite how intelligent her work actually is, because she made a working flight suit out of like just generic, I don't want to say generic, but manufactured all of it herself to get it working. Excuse me, I have something in my eye. And with just a little bit of help from Isami, got it fully working for her ability to fly. And I just think it was a really good character piece overall, of both Isami's actions in supporting someone with such a dream and Yuha with her passions, which I think is the underlying theme of this series so far. I mean, it is the 5th episode, and it's the trend that's showing up more and more. Isami with his passions on research, Makoto Aizen with his passions about heroism and his searches and his whole soldier of love thing, to their father's passions with the um clothing store, to their mom's passion that led her to disappearing on them. It feels like it's a really cohesive thing. Um, Especially since it helps unlock that wind form, which dovetails quite well into episodes 6 and 7, which are about the character Kaoru Komaki, who was a former police officer that basically watched out for the Minato siblings after their mom disappeared, and basically acting as a role model for Katsumi to be the responsible one, and Isami to be more careful, and helping in her own way to keep the family together, even though she was kind of, well, she fit. Okay, let me be honest about this. She kind of felt like Gintaro Kisaragi from Commodore 4's. I'm not kidding on that. She kind of had the same kind of bruiser attitude, but with the law behind her, before she quit being a policewoman to travel the world and take up various other jobs, only coming back to the town to basically make sure that Isami and Katsumi were staying good, I guess, would be a best way to say it, and them acting as rivals to this distraction game that was kind of silly. And Mikoto Aizen summoning the monsters of the week for his own schemes of purifying the kaiju crystals, because that was made clear over these episodes that's what his actual plotting is, all to awaken the Ultraman or origin crystal that he wants to use. And he's irritated at Katsumi and Isami having other priorities than fighting monsters through how they just bum rush the first monster he summons when Kaoru's in town because they don't want to miss it, and it's something that's so important to them, and he can't seem to conceptualize that heroes have, especially people who become Ultramen, have their own lives outside of being heroes. And it's kind of an odd reaction until I remember that the direction where this is going that has already been spoiled for me, because the show is about episode 16 right now, and I'm talking about episodes 5, 6, and 7. Doi. So he intrudes on all of this, is annoyed that something so small would be the distraction, and of course summons the monster back to ruin it because he thinks his whole deal is the bigger concern. But the way he ruins it is he makes Kaoru the host of the monster he summons. So her admonishments of Katsumi and Isami's actions from their past and what she sees of their present leak out of the monster, and Isami is paralyzed with the thought of accidentally harming her inside the monster. Now, what this also showcases is that all of Aizen's prior summonings of the monsters, or future ones as well, are likely all used with someone as a host body. So it's like if the others were also manifested through possession, either that means that the victims of the possession are fine or they're dead. Yeah, that would kind of amp up Aizen's cred as a villain, though no need to rush that considering the name already has that connotation pretty well in hand. So yeah, they managed to rescue her using wind form and water form to... Or was it water and fire? It was actually a while since I've watched the episode. I've been busy doing other things, but that is neither here nor there. Basically, they use their form changes to get an advantage on the monster, and then Katsumi rescues Kaoru from being injured by capturing her in a ball of water to safely get her to medical attention, as she's still pretty banged up from it. And this leads into episode 7, which is the other part of that, in that when Aizen summons his next monster, thinking they'd be up for a full-on brawl now that this person is out of their way, Isami can't transform because he's paralyzed in fear of actually harming someone, as being a hero is not that simple. Being a hero, you have to always be concerned for casualties, and him thinking that it's the best to just beat the monster fast, he hadn't considered the possibility that someone might be caught in there, and even if it's not conscious, that hesitation is makes him unable to transform. He can't invoke the will or courage to actually trigger the transformation device, and it takes a while for it to actually get through his head that people are going to be put in danger either way. You just have to do the best job you can to prevent more people from being harmed than you should. It's basically the refutation of the numbers game. If people are going to get harmed anyway, you should try and minimize the damage by dealing with the sources of danger, strife, and conflict as fast as possible. AKA, again, why I don't legitimize Ryuki as an actual hero, because, oh my god, does he fail this. This all beaten to his head, of course, by Kaoru again, as the hospital she's in is targeted for Aizen's next manifestation of a monster, and basically has to beat it into his head, and Kaoru basically remembers the entire situation from the last episode, even though she doesn't say it out loud about, them being Ultramen, about, he has a duty to do the best job he can and get at it with his brother to defeat the monster, which he eventually does, getting over that hurdle. I'm going through these kind of fast, but again, I watched them kind of a while ago and never found the time to do the vlog. That's just the general gist of it, and I'm liking this progression with Isami. As well, as I said before, Katsumi seems to be my favorite character as he's the responsible one, but by proxy, Isami has more of the room to grow. I kind of wish there would be more focus on Katsumi as he is the better character between the two, but by proxy, Isami needs the time focused on him to actually not be, annoying the entire show length of the series. So it's definitely a back and forth now where I don't really like Asami, but I'm fully on board to seeing an actual growth to his character and his abilities as he has to step up and, pull Katsumi back from, I don't want to say impulsiveness, but being overzealous in in his own responsibilities and what he weighs himself down with. That, again, best way to balance the two out. Kaoru, of course, recovers and then leaves after this episode, but we also see that Makoto is also recruiting other people on the sidelines to work towards restoring the orb origin crystal. Presumably, all of these victims, they're in part the people he's having possessed by the kaiju crystals to purify them to release the orb origin crystal and whatnot from that. And I'm curious to where this is going still with him. I know where it's going with him, but I'm curious to the means by how he's going to achieve all of it, and because I know it's going to be straight up hypocritical, but the means by which, it's interesting to me. And still showing this as a well thought out series in how it's properly seeding all of these details for the direction they're eventually going to take with it, that I know of because I've seen the spoilers, but neither here nor there. Try to stay out of them as much as I can, but some of it is just inevitable when you're weeks behind series. That's all I got. More Rube videos coming later.